Right, it is time for us to wander the world, and today we are taking you back to the days when family holidays were all about camping. And I really love to hear from some of our listeners who are ardent campers about how you camp and what sort of level of luxury or absence of luxury you demand from the experience of camping. Because for some people, camping is meant to be simple, and it's meant to be nothing more than a tent and maybe a thin rubber mattress and a pillow and a sleeping bag, and getting yourself close to nature and as close to the experience of sleeping literally under the stars as you can safely get. For others, glamping is a thing, and a tent with a bed is a good way to camp, and gadgets and things to keep your milk cold and boil your coffee and keep your clothes dry are part of the camping experience. Different people camp in different ways. I'm aware of that. But I'd love to hear from you, those of you who are ardent campers, where you love going, what you love about the experience of camping, what you consider essential to the camping experience. I'm thinking back to the first time I ever pitched my tent on my own at a school tent. And of course, I did so sideways on a downhill slope, and it rained in the night. And that was the muddiest camping experience of my life. But you know what? It was by far the most fun one I've ever had as well. Maybe for those of you listening, some of you listening, it might be about the memories of trying to start the fire with Dad using wet wood. Maybe you are somebody who prefers a rooftop tent or a caravan or all the fittings and gadgets you can imagine. We're quite happy to talk to both of those kinds of camping today. But most importantly, we want to encourage people to explore the love of camping and to talk about camping and road tripping and how it has evolved over the years. It's a huge pleasure to welcome to the show this afternoon Grant McPherson, who is the co-founder of Trailpod Adventures. Now, they're a local brand that started out with handcrafted teardrop caravans and have really grown into a real community for South Africans who do love the open road. And Grant, it's wonderful to have you joining us on Wonder the World today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Pippa. I was very happy to be here.
And I'm loving the background of your Zoom background, because I can see there a bucky and a big 4x4 in the background with spare wheels and tulip gadgets on top of the car. This is clearly something you do on a grand scale. Grant, when was your first memory of going camping? What was your first experience? Can you take us back?
Let's go all the way back. My parents took me camping, and I remember it was very much a rustic experience back then. And I always thought, this is not what I like. Growing up as an adult, I went full glamping.
Yep.
So right behind me is actually my Suzuki Jimny,
yep,
which was entered in the Jimny gathering pageant, and it came second as the Globetrotter. So it gives you an example of what type of camping I like. I like adventure camping. I like crossing borders. I like exploring the unknown. But I did start out with taking the entire kitchen sink with me.
Yeah. And have you pared that back now? I mean, that looks like a fully kitted out vehicle with lots of things added to it. But from what you've just said about the kitchen sink, maybe you've learned over the years to also prune back a little bit. Tell us what you do consider essential to take with you.
Shade. Number one, shade is always important. You don't know where you're going to be and how much sun you're going to be impacted by. It's also good to keep away from the wind. I like taking a refrigerator with me. That always keeps the drinks cold on arrival. And I love our product, which is the...
Oh, we seem to be struggling a little bit with the Zoom line here.
That I would rate it an experience you can experience on the market. And that's why I enjoy this. I didn't design it. I met him. I'm the correct...
Oh, we just seem to be losing the Zoom link there, I'm afraid.
Is that okay?
Sorry, Grant. We just lost you for a minute there. You got as far as telling us shade was important, a fridge for cold drinks you consider essential. Before we move on, tell us about that fridge. Do you use one that plugs into the car, or how do you keep your drinks cold? No, okay. I think we are having an issue with the Zoom connection here. My apologies for that. I'm going to try and disconnect and perhaps reconnect over Zoom, or I don't know if my producer wants us to move to a phone call instead. I think that might be the safer option, because we are struggling a little bit with the Zoom line there. Apologies for that. In the meantime, just a reminder who you were listening to before his voice disappeared. Grant McPherson, the co-founder of Trailpod Adventures. And as he was just starting to tell us, he doesn't like to do the super rustic variation of camping. He is somebody who appreciates a couple of creature comforts, but at the same time likes to go really off-road and exploring into some pretty remote and challenging spaces. So I'm hoping we can get him back on a phone line to talk a little bit more about some of the places he's been to and some of the gadgets he considers essential there. In the meantime, please do get your camping WhatsApps through on 072 567 1567. I know some people are very protective of their favourite camping sites. They don't want the word to get out there in case they become too crowded. But if you do want to tell us where your best or perhaps worst camping experience has been, you're very welcome to do so. I can tell you this, I think my most astonishing camping experience was the night I spent in a tent alongside Voelvlei one year, where the wind blew so much that we woke up the next morning to find that our tent had literally moved with us inside it. It had been so windy in the night, and we unzipped that tent flap to a different view from the one we had seen when we got into it the night before. It was quite extraordinary. Right, sorry about the breakup in the Zoom there. Grant McPherson is back with us on a phone line, and I hope we can pick up from there. Grant, apologies for the sort of stop-start nature of the conversation there. You were talking to us about refrigerating for cold drinks. How do you manage that challenge?
In the beginning, I started with the battery pack. Well, we all started with the cooler box, to be honest.
Yeah.
It goes quite well to a certain point. Anything above 2 days, maybe you're going to run out of ice. So I started switching to a sort of like an EcoFlow or one of the brands to run the refrigerator. But that's a bit of a challenge moving in and out. And as someone that's always trying to perfect the extreme human survival, I went to a installed battery system in my vehicle, in my Suzuki Jimny.
Yeah.
And I've never looked back. It's a journey, but again, it can be interesting in terms of the costs. I'm not going to deny that.
Okay. Grant, I mean, tell us a little bit more about this, because maybe we should, before we talk any more about your own personal camping experiences, just talk a little bit more about your business and the kinds of adventures that you offer, because what you're describing and the kinds of modifications that can be made to a vehicle are, I think, quite a lot tied up into your business, Trailpod Adventures. Won't you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, sure. We started out as a teardrop caravan manufacturing business exclusively, and we make a super lightweight caravan that designed for the Jimny, with the thinking that if a Jimny can tow it, anything can tow it. Mm. And it expanded from there, from weekend adventures to a little bit of extension, going to something like Africa Burn or Tankwa, trying to experience that. And recently I crossed the border for the first time. That was in July, and I went from Cape Town to Pippa Falls and back down to Cape Town. It was a 6,700 kilometer journey.
Sure. And
it was something I learned a lot along the way. Namibia is beautiful. South Africa is astounding. There's so many options of camping in the Western Cape alone. Mm-hmm. And then you cross over to the Northern Cape, and the nature, the landscape changes, and it's just beautiful to me, and I enjoy it quite a bit.
Am I right in thinking Pippa Falls aren't just in Namibia? They're on the far end of Namibia, on the northern, in the northern part of the country. Am I right in thinking that?
Correct. You stand at the campsite. You're looking at Angola across the river.
Sure. Okay.
I wouldn't recommend swimming it, but you can see Angola.
Okay, but that's a proper journey, and as you say, Grant, I mean, that's going to test your camping muscle in a way most journeys won't do. To an extent, most journeys won't do. Okay, so modifying the vehicle, and as you say, these things can come at a cost, but then you have the pleasure of being able to travel with all your mod cons going with you. Grant, it's a lot cheaper to book a spot at a campsite than it is to book into a hotel because you want a cold drink the next morning, not so?
Precisely. And guess what? A lot less humans go to that exact spot that you booked into compared to hotels. And so I like that experience.
Mm. The isolation, the sense of being properly out in nature and away from the rat race is, I think a large part of the reason that most people go camping in the first place. So I completely take your point. Right, let's talk a little bit about gear and the things that can make the biggest difference in comfort. Now, obviously, refrigeration so that you can have nice cold milk in your coffee in the next morning. You can have an ice cold beer at the end of a day's game driving, for example. That's a big one. What else would you say are non-negotiable comfort items that you consider essential?
For me, essential is a good, safe, quiet place to sleep. You spoke about rooftop tents, you spoke about ground tents. There's a little term around those. We call the rooftop tent people sky people. We talk about the people on the ground as ground dwellers. And then you've got your caravanners. And for me, it's personal preference. Some people love a rooftop tent. Some people love the ground tent. But common between all of those places, and other people love the caravans, common between all of those places is a comfortable bed that is easy to set up with nice bedding. I personally take my own duvet on a camp because I want a piece of home to come with me. even though I'm running away from home, essentially, at least I have a piece of home that comes along.
Okay, I like that. And a duvet not too heavy and can be squished into little corners under seats, etc., if you have to. I mean, talking about people adjusting as they get older as well. Here's a lovely message in from Lynn, who says, as a kid, we did a lot of tent camping. My dad always had a thing about pitching the tent near a river so that we were all kept busy in the water and literally fell into our sleeping bags at night. She says her two favorites were in Worcester on a farm and the second in Ceres. But she says we've upgraded now, and now we have a motorhome that we like to play in when we visit our family in Canada. And we have had a ball visiting very different locations. It's great having everything on hand, but maybe we're showing our age. So what, Lynn? I mean, if you want to continue experiencing the world from a campus perspective, doesn't mean you have to be uncomfortable all the time. Grant, I mean, you can take your duvet. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know what, when you're 20, it can be fun and exciting sleeping on a rubber mat on the floor, but maybe when you're 40 or 50, you don't want to do that anymore. You value your sleep too greatly. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Lynn, and I say go for it and keep on enjoying the motorhome. I just want to mention in our book club slot on Friday, we're going to be talking to Marita van der Veever, who has just spent 15 months traveling the world, including a session through the States in a good old-fashioned camper van painted with hippie paintings on the side. And boy, oh boy, her descriptions of how rudimentary some of the facilities were and just how much they had to rough it were hysterical reading. I mean, Grant, what's the most rustic camping experience you think you've ever had? Describe for us how uncomfortable it was and whether it was worth it in the end.
Wow, that's a tough question, because there's pre me getting involved in overlanding and there's post me getting involved in overlanding. I think that probably one of the roughest camp experiences I've ever had was probably attending a music festival.
Yeah.
It is loud, it's uncomfortable, and you're in this little tent and the sun starts baking and you're wondering why I chose to do this life. And then you grow up and you decide that maybe being away from these festivals are interesting. And in terms of rustic, I recently stayed on the West Coast. It was 2 weeks ago, actually.
Yep.
In the area of Lutzville. And all that it had was a long drop on the actual campsite, but everything else you took with you. But it was one of the most beautiful experiences because the ocean was right there.
Oh.
You bride every night, cook breakfast on your cookers, and you spent a decent, deserved family time just connecting with one another in nature. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for it, absolutely. Lindsay writing in to say, when I was 12, I went camping in Beira, Mozambique with friends of my parents and their children. I vowed I would never go camping again, and I'm 75 and have stuck to that decision. That's also fine, Lindsay. Different strokes for different folks. But for those of you who are keen campers, please share with us the stories of the most extraordinary, bizarre, out there camping experiences, but also the most memorable and beautiful spots you've been in. And perhaps you want to talk to us about what level of luxury you have started to require, particularly as you've got a little bit older in the camping journey. We are in conversation with Grant McPherson, the co-founder of Trailpod Adventures, somebody who is really into the overlanding camping experience, and who does believe that it's absolutely fine, if not a little bit essential, to have a few creature comforts with you on the road. I mean, for somebody who wants to try it out for the first time, Grant, I think there's something to be said for the slightly more luxe camping experience. If somebody is a complete newcomer, maybe ease them in with something a little bit more comfy than throwing them into the old-fashioned tent and rubber mat. But the other thing is the costs involved. If somebody doesn't know if they're going to sort of commit to the style of traveling. Obviously, you're not going to rush out and buy the vehicle and buy the rooftop tent and buy the battery convergence systems, etc., without trying it out. Is it possible to rent that kind of equipment quite easily if you just want to say, let's try it for a weekend and see if we actually like it?
That's totally possible. There are a couple of rental companies around. Us personally, as a company, we tend to run camps, and this is a bit of advice that I got when I got into the industry. Or actually just bought my first 4x4.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, do not spend too much money on your vehicle until you've taken it out multiple times and you try to understand or start to understand what you need. And that individual loaned me a rooftop tent. My first trip with my first 4x4 with a loaned rooftop tent, I learned that I needed a little bit of this, a little bit of that to make it more comfortable for me. And that's the ethos that we practice. Come give us a call. Try the rooftop tent that we have. Sometimes rooftop tents are better than teardrop caravans, and sometimes teardrop caravans are better than rooftop tents, and you get some amazing ground tents as well. And it's just personal preference. And join a camping community. There's quite a few on Facebook. There's quite a few WhatsApp groups around where you just go out to the community. I have a couple of people that have said to me, I don't even have a camp chair. And I say, I have multiple camp chairs. Just borrow one of mine and let's go sit next to a fire. And they get to experience it.
That's great advice. Is join a community where you're likely to meet people who've already got all the kit and can give you advice and perhaps lend it to you or hire it to you if you wanted to give it a test run. Grant, the vehicle itself, how important is 4x4 capacity? I mean, is it possible to have a good extensive camping exploration over multiple holidays without ever investing in a 4x4, or is it really something you must consider?
You could completely have a great camp without a 4x4. There's multiple campsites around that are hidden gems. You just don't know about it until you start to explore. Just talk to everyone and ask, like, I would love to go for a weekend. What do you suggest? I don't have the clearance and I don't have the capacity of all-wheel drive. Where do you suggest? And people are very open to giving advice. For me personally, it's just I want to go to the extreme of finding a spot. That's my preference. But for others, they enjoy multiple campsites, and I can suggest multiple campsites along the way in terms of ease of access.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you just off the top of your head, for somebody who is a complete newbie, who wants a quick weekend getaway to try it out close to Cape Town, can you think of one off the top of your head that doesn't require 4x4 access that you'd say, hey, why don't you start with campsite X?
So I actually have a few.
Yeah.
We've got Rafisa near Robertson that doesn't require 4x4 access. It's along the river, along the Breeder River.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the classic Beaverluck. Everyone loves that if you're willing to be a bit adventurous with your vehicle. And then if you just want to get a bit of dirt road, but beautiful and away from everybody, there's Blinkvaart and Citrusdal. And I've just named all of those as dog-friendly campsites because I have dogs and I like to take them camping as well.
I'm so glad you've mentioned that, because Keith actually wrote in saying more people like to go camping with their dogs, but is it a struggle to find places that will accept dogs? So those three will all gladly have you with your dog in tow. Is that becoming more common as an offering, Grant, or are there still a lot of sites that say no animals?
Generally speaking, you can reach out to the campsite and ask for permission, and they return with is it a quiet dog? Will it be attached to you? Is that fine? We keep it on a leash, and they're quite open to the idea. But it has been a growing community in terms of camping with your fur baby, as we like to call them.
Yeah.
And they come along and they enjoy their camps and they get to socialize along the way, and we get to spend time with the dogs.
Sounds wonderful.
And yeah.
Yeah. Now, Alzan writing in saying, we love camping and go more than once a year, but comfort is so important. I'd love to know your guest's view on beds. We did the blow up. It was comfortable, but it needs to be pumped up every night. We did have the electric one, which made things a little bit easier, but we've now bought a stretcher, but the mattress is not comfortable. So you've already said you take the duvet, but Grant, what's underneath you and the duvet? Do you go for the blow up mattress option or the stretcher option or something else?
I'm gonna give you a little joke here. It's a little running internal joke. We call it an afblas matras. It's always deflating. I tried that. Wasn't my favorite. We generally speaking use a high density foam mattress. And for suggestion, stretchers are amazing. Try get yourself a honeycomb topper, and you take that along and put that on top of the stretcher, and you'll have a comfortable sleep.
Okay, honeycomb topper. And is that widely available in most outdoor stores?
I would more look at your where you get material from, or your foam companies, and you just go around and give them the measurements, and they cut it up, and it rolls up quite nicely. And you can put a little rope around it, tuck it in the car, and off you go, and you have a beautiful sleep. Okay,
and that little bit of sponginess underneath you can make all the difference. So that's a great suggestion. Thanks. Alzan, good luck to you and happy camping. A lovely message in from Natasha who says, when I was a child, we lived in the Transkei. It was the 1980s. Camping was still very rustic. My dad would set up the tent on a hill at Mazeppa Bay or some other beautiful spot along the wild coast, and it was just us. My dad would go fishing in the morning. The kids would go down to the lagoon to swim, and we would eat his catch on the fire in the evening. Adventures all day. We absolutely loved it. Natasha, I mean, that part of the country, firstly, is just so beautiful and still so remote, and that sense of being, in complete wilderness is so, so precious. And you're very, very lucky to have had that experience and have those memories to hold on to. So long may they last. Okay, here's a message in from Chantal saying she also loves camping, but she finds the experience of booking is often difficult. So she's finding online booking platforms are helpful. Grant, are a lot of campsites getting into that phase of catching up with modern technology, or do you find that a number of the good ones still just need a good old fashioned phone call to say, have you got a spot on XYZ date?
I wish they were developing as fast as what you just said.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is very analog. My favorite campsite, I don't know if I should say this, but it involves the moon.
Okay.
About last year, I asked, can you give me a schedule so I can see some gaps that I could book? And she said, no, you just need to WhatsApp me. I said, can you send me an Excel sheet? And she said, we haven't made one of those, but we will make one for you.
Gosh.
And that's how she developed her booking system, thanks to me asking for an Excel sheet.
Sure. So when you say seriously still analog, you really mean it. Okay. So some degree of patience required and some degree of being willing to sit and make the actual phone calls. I mean, it must be terrifying for the millennials who don't like to talk to people on the phone. But there we go. Callie commenting that since COVID, so many people have taken to camping. We prefer quiet, small spots. And I love that so many of our farmers are setting up private campsites. Are you finding, Grant, what Callie alludes to there, that new spots are opening up all the time?
Completely. Everyone's talking about the new spots. Have you taken a look at this one? Have you taken a look at this one? The very one I just said, Moon River in the Cedarburg.
Yeah.
They opened up during COVID, and you could only contact them via WhatsApp, and that was when she was around her house and she had Wi-Fi. So
had
it was
signal.
spotty.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's multiple ones opening up all the time. You get your very, very popular ones like Dwarsberg, Trout Hideaway.
Yes.
That opens up at the end of the year for the next year, as in early Jan
To book for the following.
2027.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have actually camped there, and I understand why it's in such huge demand, because it is such a beautiful spot. But there you have it from the horse's mouth, that some of these places you really have got to book well in advance to be able to secure your space. Grant, I mean, it's been fascinating chatting to you. Thank you so much for all the advice that you've shared with our listeners. If somebody is listening to this as a complete novice and would like to pick your brain for advice, maybe reach out to Trailpod Adventures to discuss kit and vehicles and where to go, etc. What's the best way to make contact with you?
You can go onto our website, www.trailpod.co.za. There is a contact at the bottom of the website, and there's a WhatsApp, there's an email. Any way you want to reach, you'll reach the team, and we will respond.
Great to have you with us this afternoon. Grant McPherson, thank you so much for your time, and happy trails and happy camping to you and your loved ones, including the fur children, going forward. Grant McPherson, the co-founder of Trailpod Adventures.